Join Move for Meals, a month-long fitness and fundraising challenge supporting food and friends. This October, you can walk, run, or bike wherever you are to help neighbors living with serious illnesses. Every $10 you raise provides one medically tailored meal delivered right to someone's home. With weekly wellness themes and fun challenges, Move for Meals is a chance to meet your fitness goals while fueling compassion in our community. Sign up today and make every step count at p2p.onecause.com/moveformeals or visit foodandfriends.org.
Today on CityCast DC, so that was fast. The new stadium just got approved and already they're saying, wait, there's going to be a delay in that fancy new neighborhood DC was supposed to get as a result of this. We're going to talk about why and what it means for DC, even as the Trump administration threatens new mass firings if there's a government shutdown. Oy. Plus, we're going to talk about the end of the Streatery program, and there's a new list circulating of the best DC movies, books, and songs. It's meant to start an argument, and we're taking the bait. And after the show, we're talking to Katrina Mathis from Food and Friends. She's here to tell us about their Move for Meals program. I'm here with CityCast's Annie Reese and Axios' Junaid Deal. Today is Friday, September 26th. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC is talking about. Hey, Junaid.
Hey, good to be here.
Hey, Annie.
Hey, Mike.
All right. Hey, Junaid, I'm sorry to make you sit through this, my friend, but before we get into our conversation, we are rounding out our first week of our fall membership campaign.
Yeah, we are. And today we think is a perfect day for you to become a CityCast DC neighbor, which you can do at membership.citycast.fm.
All the cool kids are doing it. And if you're doing it, you're not only unlocking perks and benefits designed to help you engage more deeply with life here, like members events, ad-free listening, an events newsletter, and a free tote.
I love the tote. The tote is really good. Also, if you become a member, you're quite literally sustaining the local conversation here. We try to be curious, passionate, argumentative, and, deeply invested in this city that we all live in.
So we make this show every day to better connect people who live here, whether that's informing you on the fallout from Trump's federal takeover or talking to the person who tried every single burger in DC and told us the best one.
That was a really good episode. We do it because we care.
And we live here too. And we need your help to make it happen.
So you can head to membership.citycast.fm to sign up. It's only $10 a month or $100 for the whole year. That's membership.citycast.fm.
And now to the interview. So you reported this, I don't remember exactly the timeline, but you reported this week, like days after the RFK deal got its final approval. And I watched the Commanders game on Sunday, and the cameras were cutting to Josh Harris, and the broadcasters were saying, what a wonderful gift he's giving the city with the stadium. And then I look at Junaid's reporting, and it says, oh, actually, the other parts of this thing, the non-stadium, the neighborhood that was supposed to be incubated by this, that's actually not going to be ready at the same time as the stadium. It might take a few more years. What's happening here, man?
Yeah, it's the first stumble right out the gate. They passed the legislation last week in the council, and one of the big selling points was they're going to get this whole big neighborhood over 190 acres, that the stadium's only 10% of it. You're going to get all these different communities, apartment buildings, retail, cafes, fan zones, this whole plaza district in front of the stadium that will greet fans outside of Stadium Armory Metro. And it turns out, and this trickled out after the bill passed, which had a lot of last minute moving and wheeling and dealing. It turns out the plan was to exempt all of this mixed use neighborhood development from the zoning process of the city. And the zoning process can take a long time. It could be an uncertain process. People can even sue and have their say. And the commanders expected to avoid all of that by getting the DC Council to exempt it from zoning. And just like the stadium is exempt from zoning, they thought the neighborhood part would be as well. Turns out at the last minute, Chairman Phil Mendelson gets advice from legal counsel that they can't do that. There's some technicalities obviously involved, but the
What
council
were they
can't
worried
just
about
do
if
that.
they had done that?
So, as I understand it, the original bill from Congress to build RFK Stadium back in the day exempted the stadium and relevant uses like a garage from zoning process. And as a result, they're able to use that. That is grandfathered in for the stadium portion of it and the garages and the parking, but it doesn't count toward the neighborhood and the development and the retail development that the city now today wants to build. So they find out basically that legal counsel says you can't do this. Council Chairman Mendelson errs on the side of caution, takes that part out of the bill, and that leaves a delay now. All of these neighborhood development projects are delayed several years because they're going to have to go through zoning, and that slides the timeline for all the other things. There's 6 districts on this site, and so if one is delayed, the rest get delayed as well.
So is there any guarantee that they will happen at all? And I ask that just because, you know, we will see sometime in October the jobs data for DC, which will finally reflect the number of people who took the fork in the road. There's a lot of concern about the city's long-term budget, that it's going to fall off a cliff at some point, even without the Trump era disruption to the major industry. They're talking about a government shutdown, and in this case, the Trump administration has sort of let slip, maybe as a negotiating tactic, maybe not, that they would be doing mass layoffs for good if that were to happen, which is, again, a lot of the people who live here and a lot of the regional economy. So if we get into a thing where all of a sudden people who are going to build these things or create this neighborhood, don't want to take out loans to do it because they don't think they'll make their money back. And could it be that a stadium goes up because someone's going to make money from that, but nothing else does, despite the promises that this will incubate all kinds of stuff?
I think that's really interesting because if you look at like Nats Park, it opened in 2008. The recession, the Great Recession, that hampered a lot of development around the ABR for a while. Things kind of didn't move along as fast as people expected. Maybe you'll see something similar here. There is now a timeline that stretches way into the 2040s for some of the final pieces of this development. So there's what they call the Plaza District, which is right in front of the stadium, which would have apartments and retail and fan zones and entertainment things. That's gonna not open maybe 2-3 years after the stadium opens. And to what extent, we don't know. They want to build 6,000 homes on this full RFK Stadium site eventually. That's
But like,
the
if this
goal.
doesn't happen, does the team have to give the money back?
The team, there are some, the council did put in some milestones that they need to reach. So there is a bit of a penalty if they don't meet some of those development milestones, but they're not as punitive as some people on the council wanted them to be. So
Yeah.
they're a bit squishier than simply penalizing the commanders if they can't meet them. And I could imagine them having to go back and change things if the economic conditions are that dire. That's always on the table as well.
I gotta say, when I saw your reporting on this, my first thought was like, it really seemed to prove a lot of critics right. That like the sort of the second the stadium deal was fully inked, then a lot of the economic development around the stadium about, entertainment and housing and the rest of it is the stuff that's getting really slow rolled. And I think that was a lot of critics' fear from the jump.
Yeah, I heard that in the aftermath of the story. And residents also disappointed it's going to take longer to build this mixed use stuff. I mean, the only way I can think they could fix this is if they went to Congress and Congress attached something to a bill that said we're going to exempt the RFK site from zoning completely. But that seems kind of unlikely.
Wait, can the DC Council do that by legislation?
The council can't. They tried. They can't. But I believe Congress could do that if they wanted to.
This gets to another obsession of mine, which was also in the news this week. Finally, they are starting work on the DuPont deckover. We've done whole episodes on the DuPont deckover. This is this idea of where those traffic lanes go under DuPont Circle, sort of like a freeway. They're going to put a roof on top of that and create a plaza and have it, just make it a much more walkable area without as much scary traffic and noise. And it's been talked about for years. It finally got approved like months ago, and only just now is starting, and it's going to take 2 years. And I'm no engineer, so maybe I'm being wrongheaded about this, but why is it going to take 2 years? Why does that's sort of a subset of this question of like, why does everything take so long?
Make it shorter.
Right.
Like this, why can't we have nice things more quickly? And this has been a big part of the debate within people trying to find ways for the Democratic Party to come back around abundance, and saying that zoning rules and litigation and the ever presence of process slows things down so that people don't see the nice things they're supposed to be getting in exchange for their tax dollars. But this seems like we've got these sort of two big examples right in front of us right now.
Yeah, it's going to take 2 years. Really, I don't know why, but it's $38 million. I think they want to do some things more than just that deck over part of it. They want to beautify some other things, but yeah, you're right. It's a big project for DuPont.
That's not just 2 years of like waiting for this amazing thing, which I don't know if it's that amazing, but it's 2 years of like hassle
traffic
for business owners around there. 2 years of making it harder to park. 2 years of just it being a less pleasant place to be, just because that's an inevitable byproduct of construction. It's not that small a deal.
Yeah, they're trying to minimize it. You'll still be able to use all the businesses on Connecticut, but traffic, obviously, that's a big thoroughfare. They're going to do it in phases, so one side of Connecticut Avenue at a time to minimize the disruption. But yeah, this is a big project in the heart of the city.
Yeah, absolutely. We did a great explainer back when it was announced with NBC4 reporter Adam Tuss, but I remember you asking then, Mike, I was talking about like, why is this going to take so long? And I do think that, the city has a lot of kind of incredible like dreams and projects planned for like how to make elements more walkable, like how to make certain intersections safer. But it feels like, there's such a split screen between when these big lofty goals, that they've done all this like research on and all this data about how it's going to make areas better. And then by the time they finally get done, like everyone is pissed and like limping toward whatever this new thing is going to be.
And you're doing it defensively because you're concerned about litigation from people who still are, have ways of stopping it. And I think the other thing in DC right now is it's all taking place against a backdrop of grave concern that just the overall economic picture is turning darker, which means, if you're a small business that is, impacted because like it's harder for your customers to reach you now, the marginal loss from that could be even more devastating. Similarly, if you're trying to build something new and you need to go to the market for financing, the whole picture becomes more wobbly. So there's a real interest in like get stuff done fast before the tsunami hits.
There is, yeah. I'm looking forward to this project. It's going to look great, I think, when it gets done. But it lasts from DuPont Circle. I'm looking at this map all the way up to California Street. They're looking at a big part of Connecticut Avenue that are going to improve.
Well, let's chat back in 2 years and see how sunny we're feeling.
Yeah, I'll take you guys to a picnic right on the top of that deck over.
Perfect. Meet you there.
I wouldn't like reserve the picnic blanket just yet.
Yeah, TBD.
CityCast DC is made possible by the Peabody Institute of the Johns Hopkins University, presenting the Peabody Performance Series, a full season of free concerts at the Johns Hopkins University Bloomberg Center located at 555 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C. The Peabody Performance Series brings one of the nation's leading conservatories to the heart of D.C. with concerts and programs spanning jazz, classical, chamber music, opera, and dance. Highlights this season include the Graduate Jazz Ensemble on October 31st, and in January, the Nexus Grant featuring 2 masterclasses and a reception with internationally renowned conductor Marin Alsop and the National Philharmonic. While all events are free, tickets are required for entry. Explore the full performance schedule, find out more details, and reserve your tickets early at washingtondc.jhu.edu.
There is always something exciting to experience at the Library of Congress. Look at loc.gov/events, and this week alone, there are more than 15 free things to do. A talk with humor and pop science author Mary Roach, children's fantasy writer Catherine Rendell sharing her new book, a live concert of Texas Tejano and Chicano roots music, and an introduction to the library's business collections. Whether it's happy hour during Live at the Library, kid-friendly events at Family Days, or daytime programming for lifelong learners with afternoons at the library, there's a program to connect you with the library's collections. So plan your Library of Congress visit at loc.gov/events.
So speaking of outdoor dining and traffic and hassles and things that are controversial, DC's Streatery program, you know that? The outdoor dining in the streets?
Yeah, one of the great things that came from COVID.
It's true. And great in the eyes of a lot of people and not so great in a lot of eyes of other people. Some people don't like their driving to be inconvenienced. There's other businesses who don't like that their neighbor businesses have, get to occupy the roadway. And there's some people who just think that things are kind of ugly. At any rate, they're all going to be happy because this program is ending. It's not going to be the end of all streeteries, but there's going to be a much higher hurdle and applications to clear it. And that seems like a fairly big deal because this has become sort of part of the landscape in the last 5 years.
So I admittedly have heard the streeteries are ending for a few years now, where there's some kind of warning or some kind of cliff that we're all barreling toward. And it's kind of hard to imagine them going away. But do we know what will change exactly and when will that happen?
There are just stricter deadlines for or stricter requirements for permits, like what kind of structures they can actually be, rather than this kind of like informal things that got built during COVID. Like the permitting, I think, is going to be a little bit more strict. What else have you seen, Mike?
The current set of rules expires November 30th. You'll have to reapply. Like you said, it's a lot stricter. So it's going to, at the very least, people who are taking advantage of it now look likely to have to make a pretty significant investment in making it look prettier. But I think what it's going to mean is there's going to be a lot fewer of them over time. And, there was, and I remember like when I was first a reporter in DC in the 90s, and it was an era of very different attitudes towards development. And a lot more sort of progressive hostility to building stuff in general. And people would be upset about sidewalk cafes and say, well, this is a private business. Why are we giving it public?
Oh, God. I'm sorry. That is such a DC thing. And it's just kind of crazy.
And that argument, you don't hear that much anymore because now I think people understand like two things. One, that it's like these are nice, vibrant parts of life. They're appealing. And two, these are, businesses that help our city grow and be safe and employ people. But so that was then, right? That there was a hostility even to the sidewalks. By the COVID pandemic, it was extended into the public streets, the roadways. That obviously brings up a whole bunch of other issues like safety, in addition to aesthetics. So I feel like it's probably inevitable that the pendulum swing back. I can't imagine it swinging back all that far, though.
Yeah. I mean, there are plenty of naysayers for all those reasons you mentioned, but they still are overwhelmingly popular. I guess the big question, like you were saying, is really whether the price of upgrading is going to be worth it for some of these businesses, and whether they can do it in the time. This is a question like we've been asking at DC, at CityCast DC as well. Like our senior producer, Julia Karen, did this big exploration of whether streeteries like had a future and could stay in DC back last year. But it's funny, like you're saying, Janae, like a lot of these questions then remain now. Now, of course, there's this like ticking timeline. But I just feel like they're overwhelmingly so popular. I mean, it creates like additional, pedestrian areas. Like I think that if you look at a lot of the examples in DC, they've been really successful by any measure. Maybe if you're not parking a car or these other things, there's some people who view them as eyesores, but like not from what I'm seeing. I think that I feel so lovely when I walk by one,
Yeah, they're definitely haters. Georgetown has a big streetery controversy. There are some Georgetowners who just think they're ugly, or they think they think the boardwalks that extended the sidewalks for pedestrians, which is a whole other thing. They think those are ugly too. I've heard people say, well, they should just have more standards, which I guess is the point of this new regulation, that they should have, that they shouldn't just look like traffic barriers. Um, and they've also tinkered there with the safety of it too. Like I've seen streeteries in Georgetown where they're on the sidewalk and the sidewalk gets extended into the road. So you're not like dining right next to diesel exhaust or trucks rolling by you. But I'm going to be really interested to see just if they have to backtrack on this a little bit, because I do think it'll be very difficult for small businesses that are already struggling, and Georgetown especially, that the NIMBYs have a lot to complain about. They are some of the same adjacent issues are about scooters on sidewalks and bikes on sidewalks and just the public space in general, being a little different than the historic Georgetown sidewalk.
And it's interesting. The current set of rules expire November 30th. So that is the beginning of the season when even Annie, with your Minnesota pedigree, is going to be reluctant to drink outdoors.
Try me. No, just kidding.
Across the river, I give a lot of props to Old Town Alexandria, because they took the final 2-3 blocks of their main drag to the waterfront, and they closed it off the traffic, and it's great. The restaurants are all on the road. There's no cars. There's no anything, and I think it's worked really well there. I don't see DC doing that to that of an extreme level of closing off traffic just yet.
Don't miss Folger Theater's Julius X, playing September 23rd through October 26th at the Folger Shakespeare Library. This bold new play by Peabody Award-winning journalist Al Letson remixes Shakespeare's Julius Caesar with the history of Malcolm X, sampling lyrically and historically from Shakespeare's text, famous speeches by civil rights leaders, and Letson's own verse. Directed by DC-based theater artist Nicole Brewer and starring renowned Shakespearean actor Brandon Carter, Julius X explores the historical weight of Malcolm X's last days and the cyclical nature of ambition, power, and revolution. Tickets start at $20 and can be purchased online at folger.edu or by calling the box office at 202-544-7077, Tuesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Get yours today. Hey, it's Mike here. I'm one of your hosts at CityCast DC. And you know from listening to this show that we love DC and that we love helping you understand it and be more a part of it. But the only reason this show works is because of you. You tune in because you're genuinely invested in our local conversation. If I had to guess, you're probably someone who shops local whenever possible. You've probably signed a petition or two to help out your neighbors. You might be the go-to friend for local gossip. And I wouldn't be surprised if you carry your library card around wherever you go. If this sounds like you, I'd like to invite you to join CityCast DC Neighbors. Our membership program is designed to help folks like you who care about our city engage more deeply with life here. You'll get invites to members-only events, our curated weekly roundup of the best things to do in the city, and the chance to share what you love about DC on our podcast. Plus, your membership directly supports the people making this podcast, so we can keep bringing you the local stories that matter. Become a CityCast DC neighbor for $10 a month or $100 a year at membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm. And thank you so much. Oh, and now through October 3rd, when you sign up, you get this awesome tote that says Neighbors Make DC, because it's true. When neighbors show up, our community thrives. Join today and get the tote at membership.citycast.fm. All right, so typically at this point in our conversation, paid subscribers get a bonus roundup chat. But this week, as part of our membership campaign, we're giving you all a taste. This week, we're going to talk about the 101 best books, film, and art about DC. There was a big piece in the Post, the sort of classic argument starter list about the Washington canon. So let's have an argument. What do you guys think of it?
I thought it was a pretty hilarious collection of things. I enjoy that part of the DC canon involves like like very old paintings of George Washington. I think that this is like part of the interesting element of this city is there's local DC and then there's federal DC, and this list is very much a combination of the two of those.
I mean, again, as an old city magazine person, I've made a lot of lists, and I understand they're sort of there to be provocative and stuff. But there was a bit of a paint by numbers aspect that, like, okay, we need to represent all of our eras and all of our demographics and balance lowercase w Washington with capital W Washington. But like Bridget and I once did a whole episode about the movie DC Cab, and although it is like the most charmingly kitschy movie about the 80s, it is not by any means a good movie, nor does it illustrate some deeper truth about life in our city.
I haven't seen DC Cab. I'm really ashamed to say.
God, I haven't either. I'm amazed.
Come on, guys.
I don't know why I haven't.
Part of the canon, according to the Washington Post.
There's so much that's part of the canon.
I will say, like, a thing I would put in any canon. It's not for movies, so of course they're going to have All the President's Men and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and The Exorcist. And I was glad to see Heavy Metal Parking Lot, although that was shot in one day outside a Judas Priest concert at the Capitol Center in 1986. It's like a hicumentary, they called it, just of like drunk 80s teens getting ready for a heavy metal show. This movie that I've always found like pretty compelling about Washington is Dick. Has anyone seen that? It's like a parody of All the President's Men. It had Kirsten Dunst in it. And this is like, I can't own this theory. My friend Sasha wrote a piece about this, but that it was really one of the greatest Washington movies because unlike All the President's Men, which portrayed, these coldly evil, calculating Nixon henchmen, and unlike, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which has this sort of heroic bent, it portrays all the characters as like kind of doofuses and like careerists, and it's all an accident. Like it's sort of the whole Watergate scandal was it turns out was caught by these two ditzy teens who were sneaking out that night from the Watergate. It's not by any means like a high quality art movie, but I think it sort of captures something that we often miss in our DC movies. And I think that when in this Trump era of ours, there's sort of two moves from people who don't like the president. One is like, look at these knuckleheads, look at these idiots. They're bumblers, they're buffoons. And the other is, look how evil they are. And we didn't really have a pop culture that enabled both of those things to exist in the same person. And I think the movie Dick does that. And I think that very much speaks to my sense of our times in DC.
Totally. It's not all just like people with the utmost strategery meeting in like a low lit corner. It is often like, oh, I overheard so-and-so talking loudly at a streetery, or I saw this person walking and that gave me a tip. I think my favorite movie that is, it's not my favorite movie, but a movie that I love about DC that's not on this list is National Treasure. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, man.
It's terrible.
Classic.
And a lot of it doesn't take place in DC, but let's not forget they do steal the Declaration of Independence from DC, and justice for Nick Cage, justice for all involved. I think, National Treasure should be on here.
There's a piece of art here that precedes the founding of the US even. There's a Leonardo da Vinci painting that made the art
I didn't
list.
get it. Are we talking about like art that happens to be located in here because we have many museums, or are we talking about art that represents Washington? But I was like, one of the things on there, and this is a thing Bridget and I have talked about in the pod too, is like the cool disco Dan tag makes the canonical list.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, if you grew up here, if you from around here, it's part of the landscape, absolutely. But it was just a guy with a tag. Like they were kind of a dime a dozen then. He just created a lot more than a dozen.
Some of those are in the city hall too.
And I think we've got this sort of, maybe it's out of our discomfort with the massive change that has happened in DC. But we have this sort of tendency to like, elevate any sort of prior DC culture expressions to like museum status, when in fact they were just day-to-day stuff.
On the one hand, I'm finding this list really inspiring in the sense of trying to familiarize myself with the things I'm not familiar with, and sort of like seeing how I can change my own relationship with DC through that, right? Like, what more can I learn or feel about the city I live in through like exploration of these artistic things? And in other ways, it's just like the funniest mashup of various things and taking it all. I think it's not taking itself too seriously, but there is an element where it kind of is when each thing has a write up. But I mean, I think like a tag to me in some ways is like what makes the stuff you see is what makes a culture. But it's just really funny where it's like the cool disco dance tag is right next to the Smithsonian Castle, and maybe that juxtaposition is part of what makes the city great, including ours. But it is also kind of funny.
And so if it's stuff that like you should just know about, or that's like part of your landscape, then that would include like I'm sure this is true in every American city, the really lousy local TV ad from some small business that is like so bad it's hilarious and everyone remembers it 30 years later.
The Eastern Motors ad?
Right.
The Eastern Motors commercial?
The Super TV ads.
I do like the idea behind it, and I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. Just to end on a positive note, I do appreciate this from the Post.
And look, I agree with that. And I think, one of the fun things about being from anywhere is you can kind of decide what's in and what's out as being part of your tribe. And defining obvious things out and defining weird, unlikely things in is actually a sign of health of a city that is changing and growing and vibrant. Bridget and I did an episode about this, right? I talked about like I was uncomfortable with the sort of like canonization of go-go as a concept, because that's what you do when a culture is dying, and like that seemed like bad, because I like hope there's stuff going on in a basement somewhere that I've never heard of that probably would scare me or make me uncomfortable because I'm an oldster now. And the idea of like we must like take these cultures and like put them in a museum behind glass as if they're unable to like develop or grow on their own. That tendency, and that's not all of it. Like go-go is also just kind of awesome. But that tendency always makes me a little uncomfortable.
I think that makes sense. I think that's right. Like culture doesn't really work if you're constantly being told about it. It's really an experiential thing.
Right. And again, in 2025, particularly the museum piece of that the anything which involves like federal largesse piece of that feels suddenly fraught. Who knows whether that's an accurate feeling? I mean, maybe we'll look back and think we were more worried than we had to be, but I don't see it. We'll see.
I saw Rites of Spring on here. You're an old guy, Mike. Tell me about your relationship to Rites of Spring.
I love Rites of Spring. I was actually a little too young for, like that stuff came out when I was like 11 or 12. But it was it is canonical to DC punk, to emo. Pretty amazing for people who were into that, which like when I was a teenager was, I will make clear, like a very small minority of teenagers, most of whom in DC in the 80s, just like anywhere else, were listening to like top 40, just like kids anywhere. But there was this thing going on here that some people knew about, and that's pretty cool.
You know what else is cool?
What else is cool, Annie?
Becoming a CityCast DC neighbor.
How do I do that, Annie?
Mike, I'm so glad you asked. You can do that by going to membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm to join. It's $10 a month or $100 for a year. But, one thing I'll say is that one thing that's been so fun for us is that we have been, every time there's a new member, we get a little notification on Slack. It's actually the only notification that I like. And it's such a dopamine hit seeing all these new members come in. And sometimes when you join, you also, if you choose to, can send us a little message about why you joined. And there was a really lovely one from Laura G the other day.
Yeah, Laura G said, I already love listening to the CityCast podcast and receiving your emails. Your team has kept me in the know with local news and led me to events happening in DC I wouldn't have otherwise known about. Now more than ever, I find such comfort in these aspects of community and know the importance of investing in it. Thank you for your thoughtful reporting and insight into what's happening into DC. You rock. I rock. We rock.
We
Awesome.
rock. No, Laura rocks. And thank you so much to new members, Kira T and Holly W. When you join, you get a free Neighbors Make DC tote, ad-free listening, and like Mike said, all of these other perks, special events newsletter, and members-only events.
Hey, Annie, I notice, like we read the new members' names. We read a lot more women's names than men's. What's going on with the dudes? Are we doing something wrong?
Dudes, if you're listening, what's going on? What are you doing, dudes?
I mean, it could be that the tote carrying community is more female than male.
Hey, you got to carry things.
Totes are just for dudes carrying things. So come on, dudes, let's join. Just as a reminder, you can join today at membership.citycast.fm. Thank you so much.
More important than any tote or reading your name on the air is you support the work that CityCast does. And, you know, the folks who work on the show, they work their asses off. And it's pretty impressive to watch. They know everything. They learn everything. And it's not free. But it is really cool that they do it and that they're able to have jobs doing it. That there are people in our community who get to spend their lives making a podcast for us to listen to. So that's what you're supporting more than anything else. Junaid, thanks for being here, man.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
All right, Annie, and for this next topic, I'm going to hand it over to you. You're here with Katrina Mathis, the Director of Volunteer Services at Food and Friends, a CityCast sponsor, to tell us about Food and Friends' current program, Move for Meals.
Thanks, Mike. Hello, executive producer Annie Reese here with Katrina Mathis, Director of Volunteer Services at Food and Friends. Hi, Katrina.
Hi, Annie. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. I'm so happy to be talking with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So Food and Friends has been serving the DC area for almost 40 years. Can you give me a quick snapshot of the mission and the work that you do?
As you said, for nearly 40 years, Food and Friends has been preparing and delivering home-delivered, medically tailored meals and medically tailored groceries to neighbors living with serious illnesses like cancer, HIV, AIDS, poorly controlled diabetes, COPD, sickle cell, and a host of other life-challenging illnesses. We believe that food is medicine, anyone can get sick, and everyone can help.
And this fall, you're launching Move for Meals. Can you give me the idea behind it, and how can people take part?
So Move for Meals is a month-long fitness and fundraising challenge. It will start October 1st. It will run through November 1. The great part about it is anyone can participate. If you can walk, if you can run, if you can bike, you can do this on your own schedule wherever you are. And so what we're doing is, in order to register is $30, and you have a $200 fundraising goal. And that may sound like a lot. It really may sound like a lot. However, if you break it down into bite-sized pieces, it's not too much. Let me just tell you this. So at Food and Friends, again, we feed people battling serious illnesses. Mm-hmm. Every $10 raised is one medically tailored meal. Okay, so $30 is a full day of meals for a client, and $200 is a week's worth. Okay, so if you had 20 friends and you asked them all to support you with a $10 donation, you'd hit your $200 fundraising goal like that. And so I'm excited about it. This is our first endeavor into this virtual walkathon. And then what you do is you track your movements. We're recommending that you use Strava. That's a popular fitness app. It connects with our event platform, which is called One Cause. So you can see your activity and you compare it with others, but you can use your iPhone or whatever. This is an honor system. We want people to just get out and move. And while you're doing that, help us, help this cause.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like this is kind of the definition of the adage, many hands make light work, right?
That's a great one. Definitely. We consider ourselves a community of neighbors helping neighbors. So we're just helping each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially as you say, for people who are sick or in need, food is often the first thing that goes out the window. So for folks listening who want to get involved, what's the best way they can sign up?
For anyone who wants to take part in this, visit our website at foodandfriends.org. First of all, you're going to learn a whole lot about us. We are a really great organization that has a great mission that's easy to get behind. But you can also look for Move for Meals while you're there. You can register. Again, it's $30 to register, a $200 fundraising goal. If people also want to get involved with Food and Friends beyond Move for Meals or in addition to Move for Meals, visit our website again at foodandfriends.org, and you can volunteer with us. We are a volunteer-dependent organization. We were started by volunteers, and volunteers are the lifeblood of our organization. So we have lots of opportunities in our kitchen or delivering to our clients for volunteers to get involved in. We also are working toward another Thanksgiving, which is our Super Bowl. Thanksgiving is our largest event of the year, and we need lots of volunteers to make it a success. So there are lots of ways to get involved with Food and Friends, and we are happy for all the support we can get.
Katrina, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Annie. I sincerely appreciate it.
Listeners can go to moveformealsdc.org to learn more. We'll have that link for you in our show notes as well, so you're just a click away. Thanks for listening.
And that, my friends, that is all for today here on CityCast DC. Our production team this week was Annie Reese, Julia Karen, Ash Durbin, and Matthew Rogers. Newsletter editor Kayla Cote-Stemmerman wrote our fabulous newsletter, Hey DC, this week. And our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer from Politico. Music is by Alex Roldan, with additional music from Philip Ayers, Jim Galliaretto, Rue Walker, and Lucid Tides from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell everyone about it at the DuPont Deckover when you finally get there? We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.